Okay. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Allan Gonsher. I'm the president of Kids Incorporated. And tonight I've been asked to talk about a very, very sensitive and exciting topic. Sensitive because it is obviously a very difficult topic. Exciting because I have an opportunity with you to explore some healing moments and healing direction in your child or children's lives. Let me tell you why I've been asked to give this our Facebook presentation on how play helps heal sexual trauma in children. I've been a clinician, a social worker for 40 plus years. My specialty was only working with children from 12 years old and younger. I had a clinic in Omaha, Nebraska for 35 plus years and a clinic in Kansas City for 15 plus years. At present, I live in Israel and have continued my practice with children and consulting other clinicians and supervising other clinicians. I will tell you the most difficult and painful cases that I have ever had in my career are the cases we're talking about this evening. Usually I'm pretty up and I'm excited and I'm animated but I'm not sure that's the tone that I want to convey this evening. The tone I want to convey this evening is certainly one of seriousness, but also a tone of reality, of things that we need to address, confront, and grapple with in order to help our children. So with that as a background, my experience, and my agenda tonight being actually threefold. One is to give some very basic foundational thoughts. The second is to give some very specific play approaches to help our children. And three, hopefully to ameliorate some of your tense, destructive, painful feelings in a way that we can move on from the traumatic issues that your child has been confronted with. If you have comments, type in the comments and I will see them. I'm not going to take comments as they come up. I'm going to every 15 minutes take a break and look at the comment board or look at or continue and then address them as this unfolds. So I want to highlight a couple things. The first is anyone who says they have an answer to this problem, do not believe. Anyone who says they have a solution to this problem, run. Anyone who says they can fix it, don't listen. In my 40 plus years, I will tell you, every single child, every single family is different and therefore requires a very different approach, understanding, sensitivity, care for the child and for the family. And so what I'm going to try to do is give you an overview of some of my thoughts, which I believe applied to many families and helped me with these children and their families. The first, and hence the topic for tonight, is play. Play is a child's most natural way of expressing him or herself. This was written about as early as Anna Freud and Melanie Klein. They understood 100 years ago that play, if you wanted to get inside to the unconscious and conscious of a child, all you had to do was to allow them to play. So the foundation of this entire presentation is the appreciation that when children play, they are talking to us. My job as a clinician is to be able to understand, interpret, intervene, join with their play in order to help them express what they're saying and help their family understand. Your job as parents is to allow your children to play and hopefully to understand what the play means, to be able to encourage them to express themselves. We'll talk more about it, but the most basic understanding is that adults maybe will do talk therapy, but children do play therapy. You know, it's always interesting to me. I seldom worked with the grown-up world, but the attempt by the grown-up world's clinicians to get people to talk, and especially about their own sexual experiences, their own sexual traumas, is very difficult. And many in the adult world have found that the use of sand, the use of clay, the use of toys can in many ways help the grown-up world begin expressing themselves with their own traumas. But we can't expect the same with children. We can't expect children to come into our office and say, Dr. Allan, the reason I'm in your office is because my uncle touched me in places he shouldn't have touched. It bothered me. I enjoyed it. I hated it. I can't talk to my parents, but I'm in here because I want to solve the problem. If a child comes into your office and does that, all I can say to you is that that's the perfect child you want in the office. But most of them, unfortunately, don't do that. They come in and they play, and that in and of itself is our vehicle by which to talk to our kids. And yes, tonight I'll show you some of those things. The second thing that I wanted to say is, please, please don't sexualize your child. What does that mean? That everything that happens in their life now is because of something sexual that took place to him. Oh, he's got headaches. Oh, it must have been. He's not doing his homework. It must have been because. Oh, she's not tying her shoes the right way and she refuses to get up in the morning. It's because of. It doesn't work like that. There are some things which, yes, of course, are directly connected to the sexual inappropriate behavior, and some which is indirectly, and some that have nothing to do with it. But if every time something happens to your child, or a child does something, and you immediately go to the sexualized traumatic experience, you will be sexualizing your child. And your child will only see them as an object, see themselves as an object, as a vehicle by which everything in the world is filtered through. Easier said than done, I understand that. Hence, one of the things I would always recommend is making sure you have a good clinician, good child therapist for your child. But be very careful about sexualizing your child. This you're going to go and roll your eyes, I'm sure. Try to relax. You know, you're on a roller coaster. And the more you tighten up on the roller coaster, the more you can get hurt. We always say that if you see an accident coming and you tighten up because you see the car coming into your car, you will get hurt more than if you try to relax and take the accident and absorb it as best as you can. I know you're rolling your eyes and you're saying, come on, Allan, how am I going to relax when I just found out that the teacher in the class has been abusing my little boy? How am I going to relax? And I know that's the impossible. But sometimes parental and community and societal reaction to a trauma by a child can intensify it. And so we have to be very, very careful. And I don't know exactly how to say to relax, but I do know that when the families that I worked with, I always had the parents involved with the work. So if I saw a certain amount of anxiety, saw a certain amount of rage, I always made sure I took some time to alleviate, to relax, to discuss, to do something with that very, very intense feeling reaction to the outrage that parents, family, the community would have. But we have to try somehow to relax, to somehow, the expression, watch my mouth. Sometimes we have to bite our tongue. Sometimes we have to sit on our hands. Sometimes we have to white knuckle. And sometimes we have to do that. And I know in today's world where, you should let out your feelings and everything, there are times I believe that it's healthier and more appropriate for us to implode in the presence of our child than to explode. Someone might say, isn't that teaching your child to keep their feelings in? There are times that it is important to keep your feelings in, even for children. For example, what happens if a child's been molested? And the next thing you know it, you're telling everyone in the school, on the playground, telling all the boys, girls about what went on. There are times we have to tell our children that is something you keep in and you bring home. I know you want to tell your friends, I know you want to get it off your chest, but there are times that we have to keep it in. Some people might say, and again, this whole hour presentation, I am sure there will be clinicians that say, Gonsher doesn't know what he's talking about. You're simply getting this evening my career experience, my educated guesses and experience of how to work with these types of children and families. But there are times that imploding is okay, as long as there are moments that one is allowed to explode. I'm not suggesting that imploding is the be-all, end-all, and the result of the work that we're doing. Absolutely not. What I'm suggesting is the balance, which grown-ups maybe can balance better than children. There are times we have to implode. Sometimes we have to keep the energy, the excitement, the rage, the tremendous grief that we have because of what happened to our child within ourselves. And to find other vehicles by which we express it, but not in the presence of our child. And sometimes we have to teach our children that too. No, you can't go on the playground and tell everyone what happened, what your teacher did, or what your father did. Next, parenting is still very needed. Sometimes what happens is parents, first of all, parenting is always needed. I'm not saying parenting is specifically needed for this. What I am suggesting is that we need to really keep our eye on the parenting. And just because a child is reacting, responding to their outrage, their grief, their rage of what happened to them, that does not mean we allow them to throw things in the house, to kick, hit, spit, and bite, to hurt themselves, to talk terrible things to people. You still have to parent. You still have to be sensitive and caring. That's a whole nother discussion. But oftentimes when I'm working with this type of child, the parents are so in pain and so protective and wanting to be so nurturing to their child. Understandable. They allow their child to get away with things. In many ways, that's going back to the point of sexualizing your child. When you act like that, which parentheses is, related to that, we'll let you do it. And I'm here to say parenting is always, always a necessity in general raising children, duh. But in these situations, we do have to set boundaries and limits for our child. And if you don't, all you've done is given your child permission with that rage, that grief, that pain to lash out, to destroy, to be aggressive. And no matter what happens in your life, you're not allowed to go and hurt another person. You're not allowed to go get even. You're not allowed to hurt yourself. So, parenting is still very much needed. I'm going to talk about soft moments when we talk about play. But we have to create those moments where our children will talk to us, where our children will play with us. I'm not going to talk very much about it here, but under the category of general thoughts, I wanted you to consider before I get to what do you do. One is creating those very soft, tender moments with your child. And by the way, the reason I'm giving these so far 5, what I consider foundational thoughts before I get to what do you do, because I think it's disrespectful and I think it's not kind to immediately assign this approach to this child because they've been sexually abused. And many clinicians, this I'm going to be lambasted, many clinicians will say, oh, this is what you do as soon as you get a sexually abused child. I don't believe one shoe fits all feet. What's the expression? One shoe fits all feet. No. And so, for me, it's so important to have a foundation of an understanding of a child and a family, and these are some of those principles, and to begin on the journey with the child and the family to understand where I can be part of that process. By the way, my training was psychoanalytic. I trained at the Princeton Child Guidance Center. I trained family therapy at Philadelphia Child Guidance Center. I trained at Ackerman Family Institute in New York. And so the whole understanding of a whole system by which we deal with children and their families is so critical to understand. So anyone who has the audacity, has the arrogance to believe this is what you do, I'm not a big fan. And so why am I saying that? It's because these foundational concepts that I'm sharing with you, and I know you're saying, oh, get to the point, Allan. Tell me what I do. You can't get to what you do until you understand what is going on. And you're going to say to me, oh, but my child was molested. What do I do? It's not that simple. I mean, how they were molested, with whom they were molested, for how long were they molested, what type of molestation. Those are just some of the questions you have to know before you say, oh, soft moments. Won't make any sense if it's not in the context of what I'm talking about. This next point is the most difficult for me to articulate, and probably most of you are going to click off after I say it. Yes, your child will have this with them for the rest of their life. This is not something that heals and goes away. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. Sorry, mommy and abbas and tatis. It doesn't go away. And at different times in your child's life, it will raise its ugly head. Pre-teen, teen, before they get married, when they get married, when they have children, it's there. It's scarred, unfortunately, in their neshama, in their souls. I'm sorry. I wish I could say it can go away. I wish there were people like me who are the clinicians can say, I can solve this, don't worry. But what I can tell you, which I think is the healing part, is that I and others can help children manage this for the rest of their life. That moments in their adolescence and moments in their marriage and raising their children, they don't have to be controlled by, succumb to what happened when they were young. And that doesn't have to be the element that defines them for the rest of their life. And I can comfortably say, sitting before all of you tonight, that I have done that with numerous children. I've taught them how to manage the pain of sexual trauma, plain and simple. And I believe that gives children hope, families hope, certainly gives me hope that we can do something for your child and for your family. We can manage it. And yes, therapy will be part of their life. Because there will be someone like a Dr. Allan Gonsher, who will be needed to help them navigate. And that's not a sign of weakness. That very much is a sign of strength. And a child can know as they grow up, there are people who will be able to help them with this terrible, terrible sexual trauma. And they are not alone. And there are safe, good people in this world. For me, tonight's talk, that comment I've struggled with since I've been asked to do this. Your child will have this for the rest of their life. I'm sorry. But we can help them manage it. We can help your family and you manage it. And we can figure out a way to move to different stages in life. And finally, some of you are going to roll your eyes, and of course he has to say that. But I really believe that Hashem is part of our work. We have to daven to Hashem. We have to be able to talk to him and tell him how angry we are, how aggrieved we are, how we need his help. I will tell you, I did most of my practice, most of my world with the non-Jewish world. It's only been in the last 20 years that I've been involved with the Haredi and Hasidic worlds. That principle has stuck out for the last 40 plus years with me. That the work I do and the work families and children do in sexual trauma cannot be separated from the divine. There are moments that I'm in the office, not just with this type of kid, but the kid who has seen a parent raped in front of them, killed in front of them. That I have to believe the work that I'm doing, that Hashem is right there helping me, and helping this child, and helping this family. And there are moments that in my career, I've looked around in the office when I've done something or the child's done something, and I just look around and go, oh my God. Hashem blessed me with the tools to be able to do what I've done in my career. I hope the sexual trauma experience does not alienate a person from their connection with God. I hope it can only enhance it and get you closer to be able to talk to him. These are the fundamental thoughts I have. Play is a child's natural way of expressing. Don't sexualize your child. Try to relax. Parenting is always needed. Soft moments. It will be with your child for the rest of your life. And God is a partner in all of this. And now to play and how it helps children heal from sexual trauma. One of the questions that was submitted before was, by doing the type of work I do, it will regress a child, bring the child back to the moment of the violation of the sexual trauma. And yes, it will. And yes, it has to. And yes, it will challenge the child's sense of being. But that is the moment of healing. When a clinician can join with the child and the family to get to that moment and relive it, which will be terribly painful, terribly awkward, explosive, disconcerting. It will be horrific. That's when the work begins. That's where the healing begins. Because the child at that moment can very much begin seeing, feeling, experience, and fix it. So it doesn't have to continue. I'm talking a lot of clinical stuff now, and I know I'm supposed to be talking to parents, but I just want to let you know, I am never, as a clinician, afraid of returning to those moments with the child. I want to reassure the child that it is part of their healing. I will be there, their parents will be there, and this does not have to reoccur in their life. And we in therapy are going to be able to do that. Parenthetical to all of this, I just want to point out that although my training was psychoanalytic, when it comes to sexual abuse with children, child-centered play therapy, which is really was developed from Carl Rogers, and later really developed by Virginia Axline and Virginia Satir, and became really a powerful movement in the 80s and 90s by Gary Landreth. It's a very, very profound, pronounced technique used working with children, which is really to allow children to play in the playroom and to allow them to express themselves through play. With that said, it's important for kids to run and play, to play with blocks, to play with dolls, to play with cars, dollhouse, sand. It's important for them to feel things, hear things, smell things. It's important for them to get out in the world and to be free and safe. Because you have to remember, the moment of this trauma, they were not free, they were not safe, they were not allowed to play. Unfortunately, the type of play was not appropriate play. But at any opportunity, you have a chance to allow your child to go to a playground and swing, teeter-totter, run, climb, do it. Now you're saying, oh, I do that already, Allan. We'll do it more. You know, we live in a world where we want children to learn and to spit back stuff and to do the right thing, which of course we do. We also need children to play. Allow their energy to come out. Allow their emotions to come out. Today I went to an activity where there are hundreds and hundreds of children. I could spend a whole day just watching. And just watch children play together, fight together, argue together, cooperate together on a playground. It's a marvelous thing. And for the most part, if we grown-ups don't get involved, live in a world where parents hover, parents are protecting, sometimes your kid is going to get bullied. Sometimes your kid is going to get kicked. Sometimes your kid is not going to get their way. And sometimes your kid has to figure out how to play that out. How to not always win. How to lose. How to fall from the monkey bars. And get hurt and get up. How to ride the bike and fall down and scrape their knee. And hopefully at moments like these in their life where they're playing, just normal play, where they're not only to enjoy it with them. So that's an important part. We adults drop them off the playground. We sit down and play with our phones or talk to our friends. How many of us go swing with them? How many of us climb with them? I'm a grandfather. That's the biggest fun. I had fun with my own children, but now as a grandfather, I can do that. What a waste to go and sit and play on your phone and to talk to a friend when you have your own flesh and blood in front of you. All the more so when you have a child who's been sexually traumatized. They want you there. They need you there. And yes, hopefully we'll be there when they do fall off the monkey bars and hurt themselves. And we can hold them. We can comfort them, console them. At times we can't. So this, at the end of this entire presentation, somebody will say, that's what he presented? Swing, teeter-totter, monkey bars? I knew that. Well, if you knew it, do more of it. Because that's something your child's going to want and need. Because when they get closer to the really painful material, they won't want to do that. And that will be a great opportunity for them to run away from the moment that they're going to have to revisit. It'll be a great opportunity for them to completely get out of their world of what they have to work on. A great moment for escapism, being defensive, just to be and to fly. And children need that, because that's when they're in control. So if the title is How Play Helps Children Heal from Sexual Trauma, there's no chachma, there's no chiddush, there's no something that is more than that this evening, my friends. Play with your child. Allow your child to get out and play. Somebody was saying to me, oh, it's too hot outside, or it's too cold outside, or there's some mean kids in the neighborhood. Okay. Get them in the playground and you play with them. And a mean kid comes over, tell the mean kid to get lost. And if the parent comes over and says, why are you being mean, my kid? Take your kid and go home and go play at home. Find a place that your kid can feel safe, take care of themselves in their play, and you can be part of it. Let's come back home. I often ask parents, what type of toys do you have at home? And by the way, I don't consider electronics a toy. It's a distraction. And many of the people listening tonight probably don't even have electronics, which is great. But then they don't have any toys, right? But electronics are not toys. Playing with your kid, some electronic game is not my idea of playing. You have cards, you have building blocks, you have some dolls, you have maybe sort of a dollhouse, you have some trucks. Maybe you have a sand tray that you can cover so sand doesn't get all over. I know that. Nothing more fancy than that. Maybe some puppets. Crayons, paper. Nothing fancy. It's not requiring you to go to the store and spend hundreds of dollars. Basic things. Blocks, dolls. Walk into your house and say, what do my children play with? And especially this particular child. Do you know what their favorite toy is? Is that they get ensconced, absorbed into a book? That's not always play. That I sometimes have a concern about. When they hide into the world of fantasy, into a book. Although there are ways to get into that to help them, but if we have time, we can talk about that. But look at the toys they have at home to play with. Play for the sake of play, not for the sake of education. Or they pick up something and say, oh, do you know how an atomic bomb is made? Or do you know how a car works? Or the educational play? That's not what I'm talking about here. By the way, in general, I don't think it's good for parents to always be educating and teaching their child, how to Google, how to create, I believe it's our job just to provide the environment for them to explore. But if everything is educational, then it's not going to be, maybe that's the fun for them, finding educational solutions, but I want kids to play with cars and crash them together, dolls and take care of them and crash them together, and puppets and puppet shows and building with Legos or blocks without an educational angle to it. How can I teach you how blocks can be used for blah, blah, blah? Play for the sake of play. Next. If children play, and most children will let you know what they're thinking and feeling through play, sexually traumatized children could be very, very explicit about their play. Two thoughts. Going back to what we said about imploding. They can play those things in the safety and the privacy of their room and in the house. They cannot in school and on the playground with other kids. And that's the point where parenting comes in, where education comes in. And we have to this is a very, very difficult topic, but if the child wants to pull down their pants and play with themselves in front of other kids, obviously you can't do that. The child wants to come and show you where they were touched and how they were touched in the classroom. The child can't do that. But at home, a child should be allowed to do those types of things in the privacy of their bedrooms, not necessarily in the public domain. You have other children, and your child, all of a sudden, their play becomes sexual. They start referring to body parts. They start acting things out. The best thing to do is to give them a hug and say, this play is wonderful, but you can do this in your bedroom. This is in the privacy in your bedroom. And we can talk about it later. If no one's around, then allow them to play it. This, for some of you, probably doesn't even mean anything, but years ago in America, there was a terrible, terrible killing in Columbine. A man goes into a theater, unfortunately shoots and kills many, many people. It was a tragic, tragic event in the Midwest. And I remember within a matter of 6 weeks, 5 of my clients were kicked out of school. Why? Because they were playing with guns. Of course, these are guns. Of course, this is a gun. It's a bomb. Any mention of any of those types of murder, death, kill weapons or thoughts was immediately shut down and eliminated from school. And then this happened in the summer, in the spring and the summer. So kids weren't allowed to play like that on the playground anymore. Understandable. Everyone was afraid. And if they came into my playroom and did anything like that, the parents would say, my kid's not going to be a Columbine killer, is he or she? No. Comes Halloween. Some of you don't even know what Halloween is in the States, which is all about murder, death, kill, blood, guts, terrible, ugly, stupid holiday. Kids, of course, are drawing pictures of it. 5, 6 more kids kicked out of school. They now said pictures with these types of things are not allowed. You know, about 10 years ago, I heard the game Red Rover, Red Rover. I don't know if any of you know that game, where you'd hold your hands together and kids would run through and break through. And it's a great game. I really enjoyed it as a little kid. Outlawed. Tag, outlawed. Why? Too aggressive. Too hurtful to other kids' feelings and physicality. And this is where the mental health community will exile me, because I believe that's ridiculous. I believe kids should go out and play on the playground, and outside of bullying and really harmful, destructive behavior, kids should be allowed to play and run and do their kid things. Why am I saying this to you? Because when you allow your child who has been sexually traumatized to play, they for sure will sexualize their play. And you need to be prepared, one, to not overreact, but to set boundaries and limits on it, i.e., you can't do that at school, and at home, if you want to, you can do it in your bedroom. Please play like that in the bedroom. It's very important for them to have a safe, non-destructive, non-threatening place for them to play that out. Because, by the way, what a playroom is for someone like me, that's their safe place to be able to do that. So if they draw a picture with a big penis, they draw a picture that's very graphic and explicit. Second thing is, don't go, oh my God. That's where I said before, bite your tongue, sit on your hands, and just acknowledge it. That is your child working through the pain in their life and given a sense, a safe, understanding environment for them to express it. There's a lot of parts here that we don't have enough time to focus on, but there have been kids who have been fixated on that for weeks and weeks and weeks. They focus on one particular image and they keep playing it. There are times they get close to it and they run. There are times that they don't get close to it. And it's the clinician's job to encourage it. Every child is different, and for anyone to say, this is what you do, run. I'm here to say tonight, as a clinician, every child is different. Your child, how they're going to revisit the pain, will depend on your child and your family. And I am not worried that a family cannot be there to support them in that play, nor am I afraid to be there to help your child in that play. Why am I saying all this? Because one, I said play is the natural thing. Let them run and go out. But if they can't, make sure you have some basic toys at home where they can express themselves. And they will. And don't be reactive. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't draw that. Invite them into their room, into their safe space at home to do it. Or to let them know they can go see Dr. Allan or whoever the therapist is. I'm not promoting me to be your therapist. Please, please, please. I'm simply saying that maybe that's something that's brought up in the next session with the clinician. But you are a partner in this, I want you to know. Because when you allow your child to do that, that helps guys like me. That helps clinicians like me. Because that says to me that this child is having a safe experience to be able to go and revisit that which was a knife in their heart. Third, with play, you have to attach all of what I've talked about tonight with what I call the soft moments. Every child has what I call the soft moment. What is that? All you have to do is ask your child, how are you? And you know your child, you get the soft moment, and they will tell you. Firstborns, it's typically right before they go to bed. Secondborns usually do a lot of talking. Thirdborns will wait if there's no other children around, and they'll wait for the opportunity. And fourthborns they're sort of like secondborns. This whole birth order theory is another issue, which another time we can talk about. Why am I talking about soft moments? Because if you hit that sweet spot with your child, you develop that type of intimate relationship with your child through play, through play, through reading a book, through just being there. All you have to do is say, how are you doing? Have you been thinking about what Mr. or Mrs. did to you? You want to talk about it. That is the moment where they'll talk to you. And that's the moment God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And this is what you do with your mouth. Don't talk. Because if that's the moment, they're going to start telling you what happened. They're going to start telling you wish they could rip off his face, and they wish they could take a gun and shoot out his nose, or more graphic other parts. And they're going to tell you. And that's the moment that you have to listen. Just listen. Your child's not going to go get a gun and shoot off his feet. Your child's not going to go and take a knife and cut out the heart of the father that molested. But they certainly feel like they want to. And that child needs to have that moment to tell you. You do those soft moments, and that enhances the play. That enhances them talking. But you have to work really hard to get those soft moments. I've been talking for 55 minutes. If there's some questions, I don't see any comments. So either there's no one listening to this, or everyone who's listening is spellbound, everyone's listening is not interested, or something. But if you have some comments, please make some comments. The title of this, talk was How Play Helps Children Heal from Sexual Trauma. And there were 3 things I said. Get your child out and play. If you can't do that, get your child in and play. And allow your child to play. Even if it's expressive in ways that is painful and difficult for you, that's your child talking to you. The last part is soft moments. You have to continually create those soft moments, no matter what your rage is, what your grieving is all about. You have to be able to lie down, sit down, be with your child. Say, how you doing? What's going on? I think I answered the 2 questions that were submitted before. And I think I've given you the thoughts, the foundational thoughts, before you get to what do you do. I believe I've talked about how play helps children heal from sexual trauma. And I'll pull it all together by saying this. This was a very, very difficult topic to cover. And, the foundation, by the way, the foundation for this is a book called The Healing Power of Play by Eliana Gill. And two other books, that Children's Secrets by Thomas Cottle and Play Therapy with Children in Crisis by Nancy Webb, have been books that I've used over the decades. But The Healing Power of Play, Working with Abused Children, is really the Chumash, the Bible, of much of the work. But this has been a very difficult presentation. Why? It's not a topic that you can take lightly. It's not a topic that you can say, do this and this is what will happen. When someone has violated a child, they have entered the most intimate part of their soul. They have compromised the developmental growth, the emotional stability, the spiritual well-being of a child. No simpler way to say it. But that doesn't mean we throw the child out. God forbid. It means our work's going to be tough. It's going to be tougher. It's going to require a greater deal of attention. And I'm sure I'm talking to people who are saying, duh, I knew that, Allan. I've been going through this with you for years. You didn't have to tell me that. You didn't tell me anything new tonight, Allan. And the response to you is, good. This is chazara. This is repeat. This is support. But I do believe, I absolutely believe with Emunah Shlema that Hashem helps us through this process with our child and helps children through this. Unbelievable resilience comes from this work and the work that the children display. You know, the whole presentation was based on play. What better way to join with your child, to have some fun, to return your child to the innocence that they might have been robbed of? What better way than to throw a ball to each other and play catch? What better way than building blocks and reading a book together? I can't imagine anything more enjoyable than making that connection, especially with this type of child. To say to them, I believe in you. I'm here. I hear you. I want to help you. And for your child to say, Tati understands, Mommy understands, I can do this. Very difficult topic, my friends. Again, my name is Allan Gonsher. I'm the president of Kids Incorporated. My website is kidsincplaytherapy.com. You can reach me on the website. My phone numbers are there. You have questions, send me an email. I want to thank you tonight, especially Magain L'Kehilot, Magain for Jewish communities, for inviting me and trusting me, being able to talk about such a sensitive topic, such a powerful topic of how we can help our children heal from sexual trauma. I hope tonight my experience, my passion for working with children, and especially these type of children, was conveyed in a way that gave you some hope, in a way that said, let's not get fancy. Play catch. Play dollhouse. Get to know your child. And that will help your child learn to manage that which was painful and difficult and compromising in their life. I thank everyone again. I wish you all well. Please stay safe and healthy. In today's world in Israel, we should all be safe, healthy, and the Mashiach should come soon, quickly in our days. Good night, everyone.